well, so I'm like, there's a fire. So I'm up there now. This is like 1 o'clock in the morning. I bung outside now like a malicious agent. Obviously, there's a fire. So he's trying to burn something, and I'm like, "Are you serious?" At 1 o'clock in the morning. Now we didn't smell anything, you know. The wind was blowing in the other direction. There was just an open field. But here I am thinking, look how I could get burned up with my child sleeping in a house where somebody starts a fire. No, he outed, but the poor thing, he was trying to wet and he couldn't, you know, we got it under control in the end. But you see, the wind, when they start doing and outside is dry, it picks up and it becomes a problem. So I share that, and I don't know if my neighbors or the people in the union watching know, but yes, that happened, and I'm just glad I woke up, because not everybody has, and we will get into that shortly, a smoke detector in the house. Sometimes you could be in your house and there's a fire, and close by or right next door, sleeping, old people might even die from smoke inhalation, and it's not even inside of your house, but it's getting in to that extent. So we want to move away from the bush now to the house fires. I know we had Natasha, wonderful girl. I want to say hi to her, and I wish her well. She's part of this program. I always say that she's part of this program. So we want to talk about the do's and the don'ts now. Electrical fires I want to start with first. Now when Natasha was here, I told her I was guilty. I don't do it anymore, of leaving my cell phone plugged in on my bed. I do not do that anymore. My daughter does not do it anymore because things can happen. But let us know again, and I know you always talk about it, you have your programs, but you know what? Repetition is the mother of all skill. Give us some of the don'ts as it relates to electrical house fires, some of the causes, and what can we do to prevent?
Not a problem at all. Yes, Messiah, that is a major problem for the fire service. And we have been trying to string our heads together, to string our thoughts together, to see how best we can get into people's heads, so that they can understand the importance of trying to keep their property as safe as possible. Because a fire never let us know when it's going to visit us. And but what I'm going to say to you this morning is that we got three major risk factors inside of the home. We have electricity, as you have just wonderfully said. We have gas, which is another major problem. And of course, you might be surprised at the third one, people. Because it is how people utilize these things that causes the problem. Let me start first of all by talking about the use of, or the misuse of what we call the surge protectors and the power strips.
This
And I
is
start at
the long things that we don't know the difference between the two.
absolutely.
I'll tell you what, we got to take a quick break, and I want us to, I'm sorry I don't have one here. Perhaps the producer could bring one inside again for me. But we can come back after the break. We'll be back.
Okay, way back.
Welcome back. If you are now joining us, we are fighting fire on Face It and Fix It with Patrick Edwards, Acting Station Officer, Airport Fire Service. Before the break, we were talking about the factors that cause fires: electricity, gas, and people. So, and then we got to surge protectors. So I'll let you take it from there.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So one of our biggest problems, people do not understand the difference between these two gadgets. The surge protector in itself is a device that is designed to identify any excess current voltage that is coming into our appliances and to block that excessive voltage. Now, persons sometimes misunderstand the power strip. The power strip does not give you that protection. All it gives you is additional outlets. So if you are on, let's say, a 15 amp breaker or 20 amp breaker, and you are using your power strip, that is what is going to be coming at you. So it is important for persons to recognize that. Whenever I'm doing programs where I'm trying to teach people about fire safety, I like to tell people, if you think that it is too technical to understand what we're talking about, look at the price of the gadget that you are buying. If you are looking for a power strip, then you know that you are paying for a power strip based off of the money that you're paying for it. But if you are looking for a surge protector, be prepared to invest significantly for that protection. Ms. Haigh, I will say to you though, the biggest problem is not necessarily the power strip or the surge protector. Let me look at the people's factor. Very often people get these gadgets and how they use them. People will put these gadgets down on the carpet. They place them on wooden floors. They place them among combustible materials or materials that ignite easily. That is the problem. That is the people factor. To be using a power strip or a surge protector safely, I advise that either if you do not have a wall structure or a tiled floor, it is important that you place the surge protector on a large tile. So you can purchase a large tile and have it placed on that. You can also purchase a pane of glass, dependent, because you also got to look that if it is going to pose a problem where it can injure somebody, then that would be a no-no. But the point is, you do not want to have the surge protector placed directly on a surface that can easily ignite, because the surge protector of itself is susceptible to damage, meaning that a surge protector can burn out. And most people, I always suggest to people that when you are leaving home, the only thing that you should really leave plugged in is your refrigerator. I also suggest maybe security cameras and so on. Really, truly, everything else can really plug out. People just go to the surge protector or the power strip, what they have. They just turn off the switch and they think that they're okay. But that is not so, because once it is plugged into the system, then it is predisposed to energy. So you are in town shopping or you are at work and you're thinking everything is fine, then you get a phone call telling you to come. I almost said come home, because very often when you get there, there's no home to come to. Absolutely.
Well, the power strip though, they have about like 6, 7 of the actual outlets. Can you actually fill that up, or is that sort of putting too much power into the strip? Because remember, there's a difference between the surge protector, as you said, and the power strip. The power strip, now they have about 6 outlets on it, and you're plugging in, plugging in, plugging in. Is that an overload, or can that cause problems? Because Kathy is at home, my daughter, and Kathy, if you're watching, and if he tells me that is an overload, go into Sky's room and plug out the aquarium, the TV, the multi-choice box, there's 3, the lamp, or there's about 4, everything is plugged into that one strip. So all depending on what you tell me, Kathy's about to plug out.
Okay then, let's go. Right. Now, you just said to me that the power strip, I agree with you, have about maybe 6 or so outlets. And that is the basic ingredient, as you wonderfully said, for overloading. Now let's look at it. Dependent on the amount of amps that is dependent on the appliance that you're using. So let's take a little walk here. Now, give or take, you have a television probably demanding about maybe 4.5 amps. I round that off at 5. So that's one outlet. Some persons also the same system probably got the washing machine plugged into the same outlet, and it is not impossible. These are things that we have seen. And any time that you have an appliance that is a high generator of heat or produces heat, it is a high consumer of electricity. So you're talking about a washing machine that is probably going to be demanding about maybe 8 to 10 amps.
That should be a separate outlet onto the wall by itself.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. But by nature, that people take chances. That's the problem. So when we look at it, we just had the washing machine and we had the television. And really, truly, you recognize that I'm at 15 already and I'm on a 15 amp breaker. So at this particular point, I should really be having a trip in the system. That is another issue, because I can say to you this morning, Ms. Haigh, that we have people that are living in homes for well over 5, 10, 15 years and have never ever had a trip in their breaker system. As a matter of fact, the only time that people go into that breaker panel is if something is wrong, or if they are doing something within the house, they are improving something or something like it, then they will go into that breaker panel. And if you live in the areas such as St. Lucie, St. Andrew, parts of St. Peter, that's where I live, going up that Eastern Strait, St. Joseph, St. John, by now you recognize that there is a commonness in these places. All of them are close to the eastern seaboard of the country. And if persons do not go into that breaker panel every now and then and turn off and on those breakers to make sure that they are fluid, that they can move if they need to trip. If you overload your system and they need to trip and you don't go and you ensure that those breakers are working, then really and truly you asking for trouble. And that's one of our biggest problems. So maintenance is a major issue. So I want to urge Barbadians, especially homeowners, yes, business places also, but we tend to have more house fires annually than actual commercial fires, to ensure that the maintenance, and they don't have to pay anyone to do this, but they go into that breaker panel, at least once every 3 months or so, go into that breaker panel and turn off the breakers, every one of them, and then turn them back on. If you have one that is stubborn or is difficult to move, you need an electrician. You need a competent electrician to make that change for you.
Do they have to turn off everything in the house to do that and trip it? Because if you have on the TV, because I would like all Barbadians right now, but after the show though, of course, don't turn off your, right after this show, go and trip all your breakers. But if you have something on, obviously your fridge has to be plugged in, maybe a freezer. So is it recommended just turn off the appliances at home, turn off the TV? Because if you trip it, can it cause a problem or no?
Not really. The chances of something happening is quite small. What best practice? I would suggest that you can just turn them off or plug them if you need to. Because it's just if the electricity is severed for any reason, you might not be at home and it goes off. And if you got everything plugged in, then really and truly it comes back. And that's where the surges and all that come into the picture. But yes, I would want to suggest to people that people pay some more attention to that breaker panel for a number of reasons. Not only that, over a period of time, you find that anytime that you have appliances that carries a motor, like a refrigerator, a deep freeze, that sort of thing, you find that it causes vibration in your electrical system. And over a period of time, you will find that there could be some what we call backing off of the screws that tighten those electrical wires. They're really and truly, and as you know, anytime that you got wires exposed, like inside of your vehicle compartment, if you have a loose um, battery lug, you know the problems that can cause. That can actually cause you to lose your vehicle. In the same breath, it can cause you to lose your home if you do not pay attention. So I suggest that you get an electrician at least every year or so to go into that breaker panel and just make sure that all of those screws with the connections are nice and tight.
What about all of the wiring? Because I heard from an engineering friend that all wiring actually causes higher electricity bills, like over 20 years. Obviously, can it cause fires? I mean, all wiring, if it's not checked on a regular basis?
Absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head because I was trying to stay away from it because I might be one that is guilty because we are all poor people, and we tend to prioritize around our circumstances.
Yes.
But really and truly, every 20 years or so, it is important for you to rewire your home. And that might shock people.
Every
It,
home, say that again for the people in the
every
back.
20 years or so, every 20 years or so,
20
you are
years.
really, yeah, you are really required to rewire your system. Now that is really an expensive undertaking, and how poor people operate. If it is working, they don't fix it. But as you just said, once you have old electrical systems, then you can have problems. It's just like the human body. When you're young and all that, you don't really need the doctor that much. But the older we get, our healthcare and all that tends to step up quite a bit. So I agree with you 100% that that is a problem. And I really go further because there are still many homes that have what we call the electrical wires that run through the ceiling, if you understand what I'm saying. Instead of the electrician getting the necessary conduit to have the wires run through this conduit, because it is not in anybody's sight, they tend to just push the wire into the ceiling. Ceiling is there, you can't see it. But that is a problem. That is a problem.
Recessed
It's a
lighting is too,
problem.
recessed lighting, those little round lights. I have that in my kitchen
Yeah,
because I want it on
yeah,
the floor. So we can't see that. That's pushed up.
absolutely,
Oh Lord.
absolutely.
Okay.
You know,
Well, I'd be worried. Should I be
and
worried about that? Checking it.
not. I
No,
would
because you
suggest
can't
you
see it. You can't see it because you
correct,
will have on your
correct.
recessed lighting, and next thing you know, smoke coming out from through the sides of it, and you don't know.
But
So.
let me explain to you though how it is a problem. It is a problem because and I'm talking about many of the older homes in terms of, not really, that's an unfair statement, but many of the homes that can become accessible to bats or even rodents. If you have your electrical wires run through the ceiling, and as you just said, the recessed lighting, depending on the height of the ceiling and if it is accessible to those creatures, then those creatures get into our ceiling and they nibble away at all the insulation. And eventually, you can possibly have raw wire exposed with the opportunity for contact, and then you have an electrical fire starting. So it is absolutely important that a competent electrician make a check of those wires, if you have wires running through the ceiling, to ensure that this is not happening. Like you just said, out of sight, out of mind. And
And
it's
you don't
only a
really
problem
think about
when
it.
some, absolutely.
So what we want to do when we come back after the break is talk about the gas fires now and the gas bottles that everybody just shove in a cupboard and hope for the best. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. We are talking about fires, house fires. We'll talk about car fires if we have time to, and we also spoke about bush fires with Patrick Edwards, acting station officer, airport fire service. We have some pictures here. Never a good sight, never a good feeling when you hear that someone loses his or her home, and then families are displaced. It takes you a lifetime to build your home and a few seconds to lose it if we don't take the necessary precautions to avoid things like this, like house fires. And we're now seeing on the screen some bush fires and a pole here burning an electrical fire. Wow. God bless our firefighters. Now, before the break, we're asking you about gas bottles and the fact that the 100-pound cylinders are supposed to be on the outside. I guess people see it as the size. But in my humble opinion, the small ones should be on the outside too, with a little hole in the hose behind your kitchen somewhere, because to me that's safer. But what are your thoughts, and how often do we see fires pertaining to these gas bottles blowing up or things like that?
Ms. Haigh, you made me laugh when you say that, to be honest with you, but the gas bottles are not as dangerous as many people think. Huh?
Okay.
The problem again is how people go about it. And I agree with you 100% that the best place for the gas cylinder to be is on the outside of the house. I don't have an issue with that at all. Mm-hmm. However, though, depending on where you live, it might not be possible to have that 20-pound cylinder on the outside, because you might recognize that the gas might disappear quite often. So really, truly,
I see what you mean. And it wouldn't be escaping through the regular way. The whole bottle may disappear. But perhaps. Yeah, and then you will have to then build something to cage it in, and that's expensive. I get it.
So
yeah.
we're not insinuating anything here, but you understand the point I'm making, right?
Yeah.
As it relates to the 100-pound cylinder, though, those are governed by regulations, and if you do not fulfill the regulatory framework, then really and truly, the delivery of that gas will not occur. So there are certain standards that you are required to meet, and once you meet those standards, that's fine. Natural gas, there again, that is covered by standards. And good morning to the folk at the NPC. We have a very good working relationship. Whenever we get a call for a gas leak, I can say to you that the National Petroleum Corporation, their response is admirable. So I want to say thanks to them. So the problem, though, is those small cylinders, because basically we, the homeowner, or the homes that still use those small systems, we're the ones that really matter. Mm-hmm. And as you said, now we take them into our homes, and sometimes when people, they don't want to see an ugly cylinder instead of their beautiful kitchen, and persons normally go the route of hiding it within a cupboard, but there's a problem with that, because if there is a leak, then persons normally go the route of hiding it within a cupboard, but there's a problem with that, because if there is a leak, then you cannot, or when you recognize that there is a leak, it might be a little bit too late, because now there's a build-up of the product. Mm-hmm. And I will say this to you, that I will challenge persons this morning that if they think that they can smell gas, they really can't. None of us really can smell gas. What you are actually smelling is an additive that was added to gas.
To alert you that there's a leak.
Yes. So that additive, it is something called mercaptan that you are actually smelling. So once you are smelling this stencher, you know that the gas is not in its proper place. But if you're going to be, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a gas bottle inside of your home, beside of the stove, not a problem. However, the problem is the maintenance again, or changing of that head, and at the same time changing out of that hose. Because over a period of time, the chemical composition of the gas break down some of the seals, or what we call washers, inside of the head, causing them to leak. And
Oh. Well, all right.
we sometimes take
Somebody's just trying to get hold of you to ask you a quick question. So let's give them a second there to get that question out.
no problem.
Good morning, Face It and Fix It. Okay, we're sorry about that. We're hoping people will call back. We do apologize to our callers for holding on, but sometimes we get a little bit deep into these matters, and we want the public to call. So hopefully that person will call back, and persons who are actually holding. So continue.
Yes. So because of that, it is necessary for persons to follow the manufacturer specifications as to when these heads are supposed to be changed and when the hoses are recommended to be changed, and sometimes people go the route of what we call shortcuts. And instead of following the maintenance to the letter, they go the route of trying to patch the holes themselves. That is that's how people influence the problems that we encounter in the fire department, where we have to respond. Because once you recognize that there's a problem in the hose, now of course, and from the real world, if the problem is at the end of the hose and you cut it and you reconnect it, not a problem. But you can't have a situation where there's a crack, and we all know how to check for leaks in the hose, I suppose, by getting some soapy water and getting a sponge and running it along the contour of the hose. Then you will see bubbles coming through it. You know that your hose, it doesn't need to be patched.
Right.
It needs to be replaced. And if persons can do that, then you can work with your gas bottle beside of your stove quite comfortably. The problem comes sometimes when there is gas leaking in the home, and it occurs when you are asleep. And we have had in our recent history quite a few of those situations where persons actually put themselves in tremendous danger by, for instance, you get up in the morning, let's say 2 o'clock, to use the bathroom or whatsoever, and you smell the presence of gas inside of the home, and automatically we go and we hit the light switch. That is a dangerous practice.
That can blow up really. So let's repeat
Yes,
this
indeed,
again.
because-
If there's a gas leak and there's a buildup in the home, no windows open, and you get up
No
in the
windows
middle of the
open.
night to turn on a light switch, can actually
Yes.
create an explosion.
Absolutely, and we have lost a life in Barbados in the last couple of years like that. So
Wow.
if you encounter that situation, I want persons to remember this. Open the windows. I don't want to say doors, because I don't think people will be too comfortable opening the doors at 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning.
You mean people may want to feel around going to the bathroom now in the dark? Because
Yeah, they don't,
I would not even want to risk turning on a light at 1 o'clock in the morning, wondering, I'm like inhaling on it. Do I smell gas? But that's the first thing that comes to mind now when you wake up at 1 o'clock. Make sure that you don't smell gas before you hit the switch. I mean, we're laughing, but truthfully, if you know you have a gas bottle on the inside, and you know it might be a little faulty from time to time, really check to see if you can smell it before you hit a switch
Absolutely.
in the middle of the night.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I like to tell people, because I like to balance fire safety with security. And you should be able to move through your house at any hour comfortable, meaning that without touching anything. I want people to practice these things. And if you practice these things, sometimes when the utility of electricity is severed, we don't have to complain as much, because our instinct will take us there. But that is not what I'm dealing with this morning. What I'm actually dealing with, that if there is enough vapor that is escaped inside of the home, and you turn on that light switch, every time you turn on that light switch, it creates a spark. And if there is enough ignitable mixture in the environment or in the atmosphere that is inside of the home, you can have an explosive situation. Not that you will, because you can have small quantities. But I don't want for persons to be measuring or trying to measure. I just want that anytime you smell the presence of gas escaping in the home, open windows and doors. In other words, what we call ventilate.
Right. We had
allow
a
those vapors to disperse.
WhatsApper there earlier too, indiscriminate burning, because that's another big issue that I know you're getting calls. If the producer can put that up there, someone was saying that in St. John, in Guinea, in St. John, if that WhatsApp could go up there, they have a complaint about a lady burning her bush, burning garbage and stuff like that in the middle of the night or different hours, and she has an asthmatic. They haven't put it back up on the screen, but basically that's what I would have seen a little earlier. And what do we do with the individuals? Lord knows I have experiences. Sometimes you don't see them, you smell it. Sometimes you don't even see the smoke, but you can smell it in the area that somebody is burning something and it is not a bush fire or a house fire. What do you do again, and who do we call when we see that happening?
Okay, good question. I want to remind Barbadians that the fire department still has a no burn policy. Now, let us recognize that there are times when persons will have to do some degree of burning, especially in commercial situations. Yes, residential also. But the reality is that whereas that you have the right to burn on your property, I will say this to you, you also have the responsibility to keep your smoke at you. Now, however you get that done, that's up to you. But take sense for common sense. I'm going to say that one more time. If you're going to burn on your property, then your smoke should not be affecting anybody. And I will suggest, and you're talking about Ginny St. John, but there is an active case that we are trying to work with in the St. Patrick's area, where persons are burning indiscriminately and causing significant effects on one of the persons in that area life. This person is constantly having to be at medical centers, spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars trying to look after their health. Why? Because of persons' irresponsibility. So it is not right for you to be just burning on your property, impacting on other people, and without any consequences. And I would suggest that anytime that persons are caught burning indiscriminately, call the fire department.
How fast? I mean, because some people, I've seen some complaints that this fire service, there was one or two I saw on social media that they did not come in the time that they would want to catch the individual. So that's also something to, where's the proof?
Yes.
Well, obviously you may see the ash and the burning part there, but.
But there's nobody. But that is an issue. And at this time of the year, where we have high levels of responses in terms of fires, it could be a problem because I can say to you that once you call the fire service to report a fire, something is coming. Of course, we have where we have 5 fire stations on the island. Technically, when you really look at it, 4, because the airport fire station in itself, they provide that service for the where they look after the landing and taking off of aircraft. So the chances of the airport responding, not that it is impossible, but it is quite small. So when you really look at it, that you got 4 fire stations to cover the remainder of the island, then I can understand what the person is actually, because we sometimes have multiple fires where we have to be prioritizing and diverting. Sometimes we might find that we are sending this fire station down to St. Lucie. That is a case where you might have a delay service. But I can say to you that once you make a call to the fire service with anything, once you require help and it is within our purview to provide, we are coming.
After the break, and then we want to talk about those car fires. How do they happen, and could it be for insurance reasons? Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. We're talking about fires and how we can avoid house fires, sometimes bush fires. Now I'm looking at car fires. Now, of course, we watch TV, we normally see a speed chase, cars are speeding, and all of a sudden it crashes and it just goes up into flames. I don't really see that in Barbados. Maybe it does happen. But we do see some car fires. What happens? Do we call the fire service, and do you come to those car fires that we see sometimes on the highway? Do we call the fire service? Mm-hmm.
Yes, Mr. It is very important. As a matter of fact, whether it's a vehicle fire, whether it's a house fire, because we also have some situations where people have a house fire, and because somebody extinguished the fire quite quickly, sometimes they call back the fire service and say, you don't have to bother to respond. We got the fire out. No, that is not the correct thing. And we know different because insurance is involved, and the insurance will indeed want some paperwork from the fire service. So once you call us, whether it's a car, whether it's a structure, anything like it, don't call us back and say to don't bother. We get it out. We are coming because insurance is involved. And it is either to let the fire service come and make life easy for yourself, or have a long legal battle in trying to prove that you had fire. But moving smoothly into the vehicle fires, though, and you made me smile at something you said before you took the break. And I'm not going to commit myself on that particular one. However, I will say that I've had my experiences. But most of the fires that we encounter is something of an electrical nature, or somebody trying to do something themselves that they are not competent in doing, and as a result, it caused the vehicle to ignite. Remember that we are still dealing with those basic things we talked about earlier when we talk about electricity. I'm talking about, in this case, gasoline. And what I would say to people that in the event that your vehicle catches a fire, it is absolutely important that you have at least a small 2 kg ABC, or what we call multi-purpose fire extinguisher, inside of your vehicle. That can save you your vehicle.
Where you can get that from, because my girl Natasha, hearing you right now, because I'm pretty much sure she's probably watching, that's one strike out now for me, because I'm very bad at a lot of things. So you're saying that we should all repeat what is it we should have in our car for car fire?
At least a small 2 kg.
2 kg.
ABC. ABC, or what we call multi-purpose fire extinguisher, inside of your car.
And we get that from your regular safety supply store somewhere?
Absolutely.
Hardware
absolutely.
store? Okay.
Yeah, not being committal to any one of them, but depending on what your taste, what you're looking for. If you're looking for a disposable one, meaning that if you use it once, you can dispose of it and get another one, then you can get that from most hardware stores. Or if you want the more reliable brand of a rechargeable, then you'll have to go to one of those service providers and you can acquire it. And they are inexpensive when you really look at what it is actually protecting. So I want to encourage people that it happens, and sometimes these car fires occur in some really weird places. And when I say weird places, meaning that, can you imagine a car driving on Broad Street, and just as I get by a store, it catches a fire? You can see where this can go. So yes, indeed, it is important for the fire service to be responding, because a simple car fire can now radiate into a major city fire. If it happens on places like the highway and so on, I advise persons to pull the vehicle to the left side of the road as safely as possible, and call the fire service if they have the fire extinguisher. Follow the principles in using the fire extinguisher. But yes, indeed, as you said, I want to encourage people, don't take vehicle fires for granted. Why? Now, as you said just now, Ms. Haigh, now the chances of a vehicle colliding and bursting into flames, it is not impossible. It has happened in Barbados on more than one occasion. However, it is quite small. It all depends on the level of impact. And most of the time, though, when a vehicle collide, all you will have is the structural damage of the vehicle. But if for any reason that gasoline lines or anything of that nature is involved, that's where you can get ignition. And when you really look at how cars are now being constructed, they're being constructed in a way to try to make it as safe as possible for the occupiers, particularly the driver. So you find that the vehicle crumbles more so than try to withstand the shock, and meaning that it tries to absorb the impact as opposed to try to with withstand it and allowing for ignition to occur. So the important thing is that once your vehicle starts to burn, pull it to the left side of the road if you can safely. Use your fire extinguisher, of course, call the fire service, and to get everybody to stay back. Don't try to get back into the vehicle to get any property or anything like it, because this is where you can find yourself in serious trouble.
So basically, no explosions like a James Bond movie. Really?
Not at all.
That's just TV.
Not at all.
So you have time if it's catching fire. I'll tell you this true story. And if my car dealer, who I'm waiting for, by the way, Platinum Motors, I will say this, that they have to service my car. What happened was I was driving, coming down St. Patrick's, and I'm on the phone, and the car charger is in the, where the cigarette lighter is, you know, where you put the chargers into that slot. So my phone is charging, and I see smoke coming out from the charger port. Needless to say, I was very good. I did not crash my car. I did not swerve. But obviously, when you see smoke coming out your car, you panic. So I was on the phone. I was, well, you know, minus, you know, I called out for the Lord because I was really in shock. And because I remember, okay, this is how cars burn. I don't know. So I pulled out the charger quickly, and it stopped. Pulled over on the highway, called the car company, said I need a service. And then they said, I said, I'm not driving this back home. I'm staying there. I mean, I'm a woman, trust me. We've seen enough. We don't want to get back in that car. I stood up outside for a good while to get somebody to come for me. And then, of course, that had taught me through the whole thing. And up to now, we haven't fixed it. I don't charge the phone anymore, but someone suspected, and this is something for the ladies. What happens is that, you see, we have nails, and we use oil or cuticle oil on our nails, and I had it in the slot. I think some of the oil had spilt. Maybe there is still a short, but imagine the two mixing, and you know, it could have, that's why they said it could have created something, because when we were wiping it, we realized it was a little greasy. So ladies, with your nails, you know, don't drip the cuticle oil while you're apart trying to fix up the nails just before you go into the office. But I was scared, though. I stood up my car for a while. I didn't want to get back in because I didn't know if I started that car. So is that something that people notice? I mean, with car fires, because most people say if you get a car fire, it's under the bonnet, not inside of the car itself. I don't know. I don't know if that's your experience with car fires.
It sometimes happens very often in the dashboard if it is electrical by nature. But as you just said, that makes a lot of sense to me, because, of course, where the cigarette lighter is, you could appreciate that that is something that is there for igniting the cigarette and all that. And once you depresses it, then really it creates that environment for you to be able to light your cigarette. So that is a chance that and it really worked out for you on this particular occasion. But sometimes people keep things in their vehicles like cigarette lighters and all that. And especially if your vehicle is parked in the sun and parked in the sun all day, and you have cigarette lighters inside of your car and all that, the gas inside of the cigarette lighter is going to start to expand to the extent where it can ignite. And if there is enough, then you can have, and this has nothing to do with the electricity now. There was enough heat in the environment, there was gas, and there was something to burn. And I would suggest to you also that I want persons to recognize that whenever you see the upholstery or the car seats and all of those man-made mineral fibers that are, or that makes up the beautiful compartment of the vehicle, whenever they are burning, to keep out of that smoke. That smoke is very poisonous. It carries a high concentration of what we call hydrogen cyanide, and that can poison you. And that is one of the biggest problems as it relates to fire in any sense, is the smoke inhalation, which is those billions of particles that have displaced the oxygen in the atmosphere and has just left you to breathe in these things. So I want to encourage people strongly to avoid all of these, the smoke, all smoke, but particularly when it relates to vehicle fires, keep up with that smoke because it carries high concentration of what we call hydrogen cyanide, which is a poison to your system.
So you would say that most persons who die in house fires are normally, it's smoke inhalation first, and then afterwards, of course, they're no longer conscious, so they then burn.
I agree with you 100%, Joy, and I would say, and that has been my experience throughout. Most persons, I'll go as high as saying that 99.9% of persons, by the time that the fire actually gets to them, they are already dead. Why? Because the human body can only tolerate smoke for between 30 to 40 seconds. After that, you fall unresponsive. And if you're unresponsive, then you can't help yourself. And if there's nobody to rescue you, really and truly, the next thing that will happen, then the fire will actually come to you, but you're already dead. So I don't want people trying to be a hero. Very often don't get me wrong, I love to see community spirit. I love to see people trying to help, but I don't want people to try to pretend that they are heroes. All the heroes that I know dead.
Oh dear.
The ones that are living, they are legends.
Well, let's take this caller here quickly. Wow. I mean, we can talk about running in to help people. Good morning, Fix It and Fix It. You're on the air. Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. We can hear you.
Yes. My name is Victor Young, a former fire officer. My number was 118. Now, I'm trying to find out if you are still advising people to carry the CTC extinguisher on their vehicles, which normally if they have a fire under their bonnet, they are able to extinguish that fire.
Okay. Thank you so much, and much respect to you, retired fire officer. Is that what we're still doing? Are we still advising people to do that?
Okay, good morning, Mr. Young. I know Mr. Young, while he was a young firefighter, I actually met him, but he had retired prior to that. I know Victor, very, very physically fit for his age and all that. But to deal with his question, CTCs, that is considered to be one of those halon extinguishers. So you got CTC, you got BTM, which is bromo trifluoromethane, you got the BCF, which is bromo difluoromethane. All of these were found to be environmentally unfriendly. And because of that, they were, let's call it recalled, or they are expected to be phased out because they were damaging the ozone layer. They were actually environmentally unfriendly. So we do not encourage persons to try to acquire. As a matter of fact, if you still have those, really truly, I would suggest that you could turn them into the authorities. Maybe the fire department, we can assist you in disposing of them by handing them over to, I don't know, maybe the environmental protection. But the point is, and I was speaking subject to correction there as to who is really the regulatory authority in disposing of those. Because they were found to be environmentally unfriendly, that is why they asked for those to be phased out. And you're actually now replacing them with things like carbon dioxide and the dry powders and all those type of extinguishers that are a little bit more environmentally friendly.
Well, I want to get to that. What else? What else? An oil fire? What else? An electrical fire? What else? A bush fire? But before we get to that, I want to get back to the heroes that you were saying. You know, the only heroes we know. We have a lot of Barbadian males, a lot of guys on the block, and despite the fact that people don't have a lot of good things to say about our youngsters these days, I can tell you that there are a lot of them that if they see a fire, they're on the block, it's an old person, they run in. What advice would you like to give to people now who you're not there yet? They call the fire service. they can hear screams, they can hear, what do you do? Do you stand up there and you wait for the fire service?
Not at all. Not at all. I totally endorse that community involvement, and I really respect those youngsters because it takes a big man or a big woman to see a building on fire and to hear that call for help and not do something about it. That will not stand at all. Persons will try to help as much as they can. What we do not want, though, is for persons to take uncalculated risk, meaning that you don't know where the person is at, but you decide that you are running straight into the building. And chances are, instead of having one victim, it is possible we might have two victims. But of course, if you know and you can see where the person is at, and you can make that judgment and say, yes, I can help here, then of course, intervene, because it will help a situation that can really, really be bad. So we encourage that involvement, and once you are not putting yourself at undue risk.
And how long do you say after smoke inhalation, to that extent, the individual can pass out? 40 seconds? 1 minute?
30 to 40 seconds.
Well, for as long as you can hold your breath, because you can.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Some people go the route sometimes of getting a wet piece of cloth and putting it to the nostril and all that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you breathing normally. If you are exposed to smoke, when you really think about it, you can only tolerate that for about 30 to 40 seconds. And if you have medical conditions, meaning that you're asthmatic or anything of that particular nature, that 30 or 40 seconds goes through the door, because the minute that you say smoke, sometimes that poses a problem for you.
All right, so let's talk about the types of products that we use to out certain fires. And I want to start with the traditional one, water. And I guess you and everybody knows that I used to work at the Barbados Water Authority, and I remember mandating this for 9 years, that you must engage, and I'm speaking to BWA now, the fire service every day to let them know that there is an outage and where. But we'll take this call, and then we're going to get back to the things that out fires, and we talk about water. Good morning, Face It and Fix It. You are on the air. Good morning.
Hello. Hello.
Yes,
good morning.
go ahead. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. I'm calling because I am 65. My mom is in her 80s. And I was listening to a program by the fire service a couple of months ago, which said that they would go around and offer free fire extinguishers to the elderly. Obviously, after they had assessed the house and so, but nobody ever came back to me on it. Nobody came. Nobody called. So I want to know what is happening as far as that is concerned. Thank you. I'll put down and listen.
Thank you so much. I'm just warning you now, this is the type of show that we love to give away things to help people. So I'm hoping that your response is going to be, get me her name and number. We'll get her one. But let's hear your response.
Right. I would really love to be able to do that. What I can say to you is that our fire prevention section, which is the section that Ms. FORDE and Natasha FORDE works in, they normally case by case would help persons that they think that are in dire straits or at tremendous risk. I would say though that it's not a policy to be able to give the whole of Barbados a smoke alarm or to give them a fire extinguisher. We are still governed by the government's purse, and we know how limited that is. Or if members of the private sector assist us in financing these things, then chances are we will have something that we can help with. What I can say to the lady though is that when that promise was made, maybe it was at a time when we had inside of our stores to be made available. But really actually it is not standard for us to be able to giving away extinguishers, because we and ourselves got to purchase our extinguishers for our fire appliances. But if there is a special case where there is a special community event or anything like it, and we have sponsorship, then really and truly we would be able to acquire these things to be able to give to those persons. So what I would suggest to that lady that just called, maybe to call the fire prevention section. I'm not sure who would have made her the promise, and see how she could possibly be helped at this particular point in time.
Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk about all those different products that we would need to keep in our household to out fires. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. We are speaking with Patrick Edwards, Acting Station Officer, Fire Service at the airport. And Natasha, if you're watching, he is just as good as you or even better in explaining because I know she's probably going to go like, no, we love our Natasha. She always simplifies things, but I want to say to you that so far, it's easy to follow what you're saying. And not everybody explains in the way, simplify things, and I just want to give you props for that. Now, before the break, we were talking about the products, and I wanted to touch on water first, being one of the things that we use to out fires. A couple of weeks ago, on the news, there was a fire in St. Andrew, and the resident was heard saying on the news that they hardly have water in the area. There was no water on that day, and obviously some of the, it burnt. Now, I also said before the break that there's some pictures of, I believe, in St. Andrew when that individual unfortunately lost. This is White Hill. Oh gosh, White Hill. The thing about White Hill, they always seem to get a bad deal for so many things, but that's another show. But this is White Hill, and the individual lost all of their possessions, as you can see there in White Hill. There was no water. Now, a few years ago, let me bring it back, Water Authority had an excellent relationship, and maybe they still do, with the Barbados Water Authority and the fire service. One of the things that had to happen when I got there is the first thing we would do is make sure the fire service got information on every outage in this country and update it. That way, you're moving in, you must know that when you go in that area, if you flip a hydrant, if it's dry or not. Failing that, I probably would encourage residents that if they're calling the fire service to say there's a fire, probably indicate that there's no water in the area. That would also help you. So I just put that there because it's so important for you to know the situation that is happening as it relates to water when you are moving, because you would know how many more trucks you need to bring in, etc. And those few minutes are the difference between you saving something or nothing at all. I'll leave that there. Let's talk water. What do we use water for when we see a fire? what type of fire, I should say. It depends. So let's go with the
Okay.
things that we can use water on, what kind of fires that we can use water to out them with.
Okay, before I get there, I just want to say thanks to the Barbados Water Authority. I think that we still have a very good relationship. When I was working as part of the office back then, I know that we used to get regular information as to when there are outages and all that. But we also get to recognize that in this day and age, and the fire department has been proactive in trying to keep abreast with the fact that we are now considered to be one of the driest places on earth when it comes to our water stock, so to speak. And it is not only that persons in the residentially will have outages, but the fire department will also struggle at times with dry hydrants and all that. And that's why we got to be proactive and find alternatives to be able to still provide that service that the public needs. I agree with you 100% that water is still the most effective firefighting agent available. And I know that some person out there will be saying, but yes, but the sea has plenty of water, why can't they use that? The problem with seawater, however, is that yes, it can put the fire out, but it will also cost the taxpayers already
Money
scarce dollars.
to repair
Yeah.
the equipment.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, so that is one of the major reasons why we actually do not use seawater as a first line of defense, because it will come with a high degree of maintenance. But I want to put fires in particular classes this morning. I'm categorizing fires. So you have class A fires, you have class B fires, you have class C fires, you have class D fires, you have class K fires. And I have to approach it from that standpoint to make listeners aware of what we are talking about when using the fire extinguisher. Now, at the same time, depending on which jurisdiction you are in, these classes can vary. Meaning that if you are in England, these classes will be different. So my job is not to try to confuse anybody. I want you to follow, because this is a particular group that we follow in Barbados. So I want you to walk with me here.
Okay.
So let's start first of all with a class A fire. I remember I said to you, Joya, just now about the type of extinguisher that you want to have in your car. I said to you ABC. You remember that?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Good. So now let me explain what is the significance of this A. Now A is considered not in the alphabet sense, but as class A as it relates to fire. We call it the classes of fire. And when we talk about a class A fire, we are thinking about the simplest form of fire that you can encounter. Things like paper, wood, grass, leaves, clothing, anything of an organic nature, plastics, rubber, anything like that is considered to be a class A fire. And the best extinguishing agent for that particular class is water.
Okay.
You got me covered. You're there.
Got you covered.
Good.
Okay.
Good. Then we got class B fires. Class B fires is considered to be what we call hydrocarbon fires. Things like gasoline, paints, varnishes, diesel, alcohol, all types. Anything of a nail polish, Joyanne, you remember what you said to me about your nail polish?
The nail oil, yeah, and the nail polish.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, nail polish, hairsprays, anything that carries anything flammable about it, and it's a liquid, then it's considered to be a class B fire. And notice I'm using this word here again, and the best extinguishing agent for this one is what we call foam. Now, foam is, if it is new to people, this is the principal firefighting agent that we use here at the airport.
Mm-hmm.
Now, remember when you're talking aircraft, you're talking about significant levels of flammables
Fuel.
in the form of, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So the best agent is considered to be foam. Now, I am saying best all the time because really and truly,
All right, so let me be
in the
clear,
fire
because
service-
I don't want nobody thinking that we mean styrofoam and we don't mean foam and pillows. We don't mean
Right,
sponge.
right.
We are
Right,
not talking
right.
about sponge. We're
No,
talking about
no.
that foamy looking, bit creamy looking type of thing. Foam.
Yes.
All right.
So this is something that is specially manufactured for fire extinguishers or for available for the fire services around the world to purchase to assist them in putting out fires. In the fire service, we got AFFF, which is aqueous filiform foam. So it's a concentrate, really. It's a concentrate, a liquid.
We
We
can't, this
also
is not
have
something that you make at home to do. This is
not
a
at all.
chemical.
Not at all. Absolutely.
Let's take this call quickly and we can get right back as to how we can get access to this foam. Good morning, Face It and Fix It. You're on the air.
Victor Young here again, because I feel like I'm fighting fires now. I also want to say that I see people parking on hydrants, and in my being an ex-fire officer, I would say to them, why would you park on a hydrant? Because you would impede the fire service if they had to come and work to out a fire. But in my time, every hydrant in Barbados, once I was on a station, I had to check it, make sure that I am getting correct pressure, and I had to write up in that book when I get back to the station whether I am getting good pressure or low pressure. Not only that, every fire hydrant in Barbados at the time, we had a particular fire hydrant sign, which was a yellow background with a black H on it, and that was the point in the direction where a hydrant was. I don't see that much now. And not only that, again, a lot of people I hear are doing things with breadfruit there. I just heard some time ago somebody was baking breadfruit and not knowing what is the combustible material that could be around there that could have caused that explosion. And I think when people see things like that, don't call the police department, because the police department is not here. You should call the fire department, the people who are trained to investigate causes of fires. Because I hear a lot of people are in trained in these areas, they talk more than the people who are trained in it. So I hope that Mr. Edwards will be able to give some direction on that, and I know that he said he would know about me and he would maybe hear about my seriousness as a former fire officer. Not only that, I also see the disrespect when the fire appliance is going to a fire. People would not stop and give the little excuse that they don't hear a siren. But from the time you see a fire truck with the lights on, you should pull up and wait. In my time, I will report everyone. And I spend a lot of time in the court. In my off days, some of the fire officers would not do it because they didn't want to take up their off days in the court. But I would take my off days in the court to report everyone. But today I realize that people are getting away with a lot of things because we want to be too easy with people.
No, I agree with you. Sometimes we're asking ourselves why people are getting away. We probably have to go back to some of the old ways of doing things. But we do have to wrap up shortly. So this segment. But I just want you to at least wrap up by stating where can we get this foam? Is this part of the extinguisher? It's the ABC one is the same one that you can use for the one we talk about in the car, the smaller ones. That's the ones that bigger ones you put in your home?
Right. So what? Just to continue quite quickly then. So I was actually going to Class C, and you're correct. You can actually go and buy foam, but if you purchase an extinguisher that is carrying foam, that is how you will get your foam. Class C is actually what we call electrical appliance fires, and that has to do with appliances that are actually plugged in at a particular time that are on fire. Then
And what's that
will be considered a
chemical?
class.
What's that chemical?
The best one for that is carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide.
So that's the best agent. The best agent for that.
So
So
basically,
when you see
go ahead.
right, when you see an extinguisher that mark ABC, that's the significance of the ABC. meaning that you can use it on a Class A fire, a Class B fire, or a Class C fire. So it was important for me to make you understand what a Class A fire was, what a Class B fire was, and so on and so forth.
So when we go to these places that sell these appliances, these special extinguishers, make sure we get the ABC one, because that covers all types of fires and
Absolutely.
you're safe. No, we do have to go, but I can tell you this. When I leave here, I go to the supermarket, but I have to pass. No, I'm so serious. I keep saying it. I actually have to put back up my smoke detectors because they needed batteries and they're keeping noise. This is such a serious topic. I don't want to fall asleep and then something happens and not be alerted by the fire, by the smoke alarm. So I encourage people to put in one, and you want to be prepared. So wherever I need to go, somebody's going to message me and tell me where to get my extinguisher from, because you say you don't want to promote any one store. So I will be getting one today. So whatever that safety supply store is, I will be there today. And I encourage all Barbadians, protect your home, protect your car, especially the homes that are not insured. You spend a lifetime getting all of these things, and it takes a few seconds to lose every last item that you've worked so hard for. I want to thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I mean, when they told me Natasha was coming, I was like, oh man, but you know what? Natasha, he is just as good as you are in explaining. Patrick Edwards, I want to thank you, Acting Station Officer, Airport Fire Service. Please do come back, and we need to hear more about these things, and we need to know how we can avoid, face the situations and just fix them by putting the right things in place as much as we can. Thank you so much, sir. And again, thank you for your service to the entire fire service. Thank you for your service. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Have a good day, everybody, and keep safe.
Thank you. Now, we did say thank you earlier in the show that we will be speaking to the Honorable Member for St. Thomas, Member of Parliament, CYNTHIA FORDE. I believe she's with us here now. She was a little bit late in the meeting, but her life is always so busy. Even as just an MP now, because she's no longer a minister, she's still always very busy. So when we come back, we will be speaking with MP. Welcome back to Face It and Fix It. My next guest is the Honorable Member for St. Thomas, CYNTHIA FORDE, joins me today, and we want to discuss elder affairs. Now, she is no longer minister in charge of that ministry, but she has a wealth of knowledge, and I believe that she is still attached with a special assignment as it relates to the elderly. Welcome, Minister Forde, to Face It and Fix It once again. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you lovely as usual. Unfortunately, we only have about 20 minutes, so I'm going to ask one question, and I know that you're going to roll it off. Now, you and I have spoken before, and my mom, as I said to everybody, is 80, and I'm experiencing what most Barbadians, when their parents reach that age, it's a little harder. Sometimes you have dementia, and things can happen that they need protection. So I know you had the ministry before, and I know you've done so much good work, but what is the government doing or planning to do with these new policies that we can protect the elderly from financial abuse, physical abuse, and even when they go to the bank 100 times, the bank maybe should be able to alert somebody that somebody's with this person, encouraging this person to take off the money, because that's another thing too. I understand it happens. So tell us, what is government doing, and these new policies that we hear about that may be coming on stream, and how long will it take? Over to you.
Thank you very much, Madam. I want to say good morning to all of Barbados and to apologize for my lateness, but what has detained me this morning is the extent of a special session we would have had with the Chinese ambassador and his first secretary, and all about the aging process and what plans we can look towards implementing similar to those in China and other societies across the world. And so I want to humbly apologize for my lateness, but to let you know that we are extremely happy. I am extremely happy to be a part of what is happening in this transformation when it talks about catering to the needs of the aging, the aged, I should say, and the senior citizens in our society. And I'd be upset to let you know that there has to be some special prescription for what the people in St. Thomas do in relation to living long. Because I know of Allen View that had no less than 4 centenarians over my lifetime, and of course there are other communities like Chapman's Village and Carrington's Village and so Welch's and all that where they are, and across the length and breadth of Barbados. And therefore we need to take our hats off to our seniors to let them know they're the nation builders, and we have to plan strategically for them to ensure that they need to live a long quality life. This government has sought to institute measures that will bring elements of peace and tranquility, better health care, and of course other activities for them and their social development, indeed for social security, social justice, health and wellness, and longevity, because that's where most of them will be. And therefore the new minister, Honorable Kirk Humphrey, continues on that trajectory because it's the government's plan. All the details have been set out in our various manifestos, and we're working towards ensuring that we put those policies in place to give those seniors the hope that they are still special, and that because they have done so much for the country, that their contribution to the growth and development of Barbados is valued in some special way. I agree with you that there is a lot of setback in what had transpired with us in the past, where we know that we had the extended family looking after seniors, and we've lost quite a lot of that with the social upward mobility that has taken place in our country, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we must return as the younger citizens to the villages and the communities and ensure that our seniors get the best quality care possible. And I agree with you that there's a lot of abandonment, financial abuse, physical and sexual abuse, and many other areas that our seniors do not deserve. And unless we look at programs to sensitize the rest of the public, particularly families, caregivers and others, health workers, we will not be able to achieve those goals of ensuring that our seniors receive that care that is necessary. So the all-encompassing or holistic approach must now be pursued, starting from the primary schools, because our primary school children, they're loving, they're gentle, but unless we let them know that grannies and granddads and godmothers and godfathers and so on have played their part, and to learn how to entreat to them, they're going nowhere. But the legislation must be implemented, and we're looking at that. the systems before did not include that kind of care because of what was happening with the extended family and how people were well looked after. But now that we are seeing the abandonment, especially at the hospital and in communities, that is a cause for concern. And the Honourable Minister is continuing on that path that was set before I came, and subsequent to my leaving, he's continuing on that trajectory to make sure that we prepare a better life or create a better life for our seniors. And of course, the private sector is also integral to what is happening in our plans, so that the alternative care program and then all those private nursing homes and so on, that they too are on board. The government sector cannot accommodate all of them in what we now call the district hospitals, and their families who would prefer their relatives and friends in other institutions where they believe that the care is just as good or even better. And so we are on that path, and in the few minutes that you've given me, I apologize again for not being there. I would give way to you so that you can entertain any of the guests would call in, or if there's any other particular question that you would wish for me to make mention of in this short time. And I'm willing, as you know, to come back any other time and with other distinguished persons who are well steeped in the knowledge of how to care for our seniors and are working with us in the plan, to be able for them to speak to what the advancements are that we are working towards in making the difference in the lives of others. So I will just give way to you just in case you would wish to ask me anything else, if that what I said does not satisfy your comments or your query.
Will we see the Attorney General possibly be involved in some of the policy shaping as it relates to the financial abuse? Because I personally don't think it's fair that your mother, especially when she's suffering from dementia, that you A, get her to sign documents that she's not aware of, B, get her to give you your pension check to sign, because I also understand that at the same QEH hospital, the nurses have actually told me that some of them actually come in there to get the pension check signed, the ones that have actually abandoned their parents. So can we see some sort of legislation that some sort of consequences for their actions legally, for them to be charged with fraud, or something that deters them from this type of abuse? I feel very passionate about it, Minister. My apologies. I know I custom call you Minister, but
okay.
MP Ford, my apologies, but go ahead.
But the concern is not only from families, the concern is for most people in the societies across the country and in the business sector as well, where families are not the only ones who are duping those seniors, but there are persons in other professions. As far as the reports have come into us, there are attorneys at law who are accused of doing it. There are doctors who are accused. There are faith-based leaders who are accused. There are other people in the communities, like caregivers and neighbors and friends, who are also doing it. And I'm still getting complaints, even though I'm not a part of the system in the same way. And I pass them on to the permanent secretary, who will then forward them to the Honourable Minister. But I know that there is a section of the police force that is manned by a very astute female who has been doing the investigations, and a couple of people have been brought to justice. But it is so widespread now that without the adequate legislation in one place, because there are aspects of legislation that will be there, but they're in other forms of legislation across the board. And so unless it is pulled together in one compact, then we will not be able to do it. But I believe that the sensitization has to start at the same time. Just over a year ago, the Ministry of People Empowerment would have had open discussion on the matter, and of course many resource persons and the general public would have been a part of the exercise to be able to start looking at the policy that should be set for such an area that is so important to our own existence, because we too will become old, aged I should say, and we would need that kind of protection of our properties, of our monetary resources and all that, our health care. And so it is an all-embracing approach that should come to the fore, inclusive of others in the community who have got the experiences, who have been lamenting about what is happening, but not being able to get it done. So yes, the Attorney General will definitely be, because once legislation is going to be framed and implemented, then the Attorney General has to play the most integral part in helping to pull the threads together to ensure that the policy is there and that the legislation is there to make a difference. It is appalling the number of reports that are given with the abandonment in houses as well, and grandchildren are also some of the perpetrators. They're strangers who come into communities now and they try to find out who is living where. And of course, generally people are reasonably respectful and they will say, well, it's a little old lady, but don't worry to go, she's on her own. And that is the cue that some of them will use to come back then and to take advantage of the seniors. Yes, they go by the bedside. Some of the seniors cannot read. They're not lucid in any way, but they go for power of attorney, and then they lose everything. And I do not know of a Barbados previously that we had experienced that kind of activity going on, but it only goes to show that the education is critical, and of course the monitoring of what is happening in our villages, where the residents are the eyes and the ears and everything else for others living among them, that we will be able to get the kind of success that we require as a country in relation to identifying and then putting the practical aspects of the legislation in place to be able to stymie that kind of activity that is taking place.
Would you say that in your career, because I know how you feel the elderly, and it's not even that because you are over the age of 50, even though most people don't believe that, because you're still late 30, but have you seen a difference or an increase in the abuse since COVID started? Because there was a lot of people at home and couldn't get out, a lot of things were happening. When you had the ministry back then, would you seen a lot more abuse?
I think because it is more widespread, people are reporting and they're not afraid to give their names and contacts or addresses for that matter in this respect. So there are scores of letters that would be here in this ministry, and of course the information fed to the police, who have been extremely responsive. I must tell you, when calls are made and they give you the feedback. So I say kudos to them, because they too are concerned, and I know of a particular station where I can call and the officers would have called me then, and they can still call me because I am a citizen of this country and I don't have to be working in any capacity to serve. And there's so many others who would be similar to what I am saying. But the police have been extremely responsive and they give reports. The most I want, though, or the next set of steps, is for the legislation to be in place that a court of law can treat to those perpetrators, and that they be exposed, and that the seniors will be given a better deal as they go and move through their twilight years. So it is widespread, wider spread perhaps than you would know, because you are not working in the position that I would have been in before. And of course, as you move around in the various communities, those are the things you're saying. And our approach will have to be even more holistic beyond health and the welfare, but it also has to be with housing, where in the past we would have known of an administration that sought to do the National Assistance Board housing to provide a better life for families, but more particularly for our seniors through that board. And a lot more of that needs to be done as we go forward in this society, because shelter is important. And if the door is falling off, then those seniors cannot feel safe at night because of the bastards, and I'm saying bastards not in the term now that you will use it, but those wicked folk who choose to take advantage of our seniors, who are left alone without any supervision or without any protection, as it would be. And I'm calling on communities to come together and look out for our senior citizens who would have looked out for us when we were children, to help to shape us and mold us to be the kind of individuals and families that we have become, sharing and caring for one another in the way that a true Barbadian would have been in the past. Many are still doing it. Some are afraid to speak up because they believe that their lives will be threatened if their families and others get to know who are making the complaints. But how do you sit quietly and say nothing when lives are being challenged and destroyed as a result of the ill will that many have for our seniors? So we do have reports. As I said, they've been channeled to the various entities, and we are relying now on the investigations to determine exactly what is happening. And I also want to add that it is unconscionable for some families to take their aged to the hospital and leave them in the casualty. A lot of that is still happening, but that is another conversation as well. How can you say you love God whom you cannot see, but hate your brother whom you can see? Hate your mother, your father, your brother, your uncle, your auntie, and others who have been able to lay the platform for our society to be the just society that we want it to be.
Well, I can tell you that in a few days, I think maybe Monday, we will have an attorney on because we wanted to talk about property and the elderly. And sometimes once they hear that mommy's sick and they're old, or daddy's sick and he old, instead of looking after their aged parents, they look for their property, they start taking up things. These are real things. Somebody actually said to me, is this a Caribbean thing? I said, well, I don't know if it is. If it's a worldwide problem, and it's actually your own blood who may get a little greedy. You will find siblings maybe arguing with each other for property, and your parents are not even dead. I've known of one incident where one person disrespected their old mother. I remember another incident of a son disrespecting his dad a week before he died, and telling him, one person said, her father is dead and her mother's dead too, and to their mother. So I will tell you this in closing. I'll give you final words. Whether you're a Christian or not, the Bible says, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long in the land. Mm-hmm. So when you come across people like that who treat their mother, grandmother, because that's the same thing I call it, mother or grandmother, father or grandfather, with that type of disrespect, you have to leave them to God, because I'm pretty much sure that there's going to be some sort of consequences, because your days certainly will not be long. And if they're long, they certainly are not going to be comfortable. But I'll give you final words because we have to wrap up in about 3 minutes. I'm so sorry about that.
You are quite right. And I apologize again because I would have added to that, but better could not have been done because we have to have cooperation.
That's okay.
With
I know you're coming back at some point, so I don't have to worry.
Yes, ma'am. I shall be back once you give me that privilege, please. Sure. Or I shall be trumpeting it in all the schools and the churches and other institutions across the country, because our people are not as well sensitized as they should be about the care. Sometimes it's a good face that you're seeing when caregivers and family go to look after the aged, but behind the closed doors, the treatment meted out to them is certainly not what you would have seen when they looked through the window or you spoke with them at the door. And so I am just taking these last moments to call on Barbadians all, keep your eyes out for our seniors in the same way that you do for our children, because they no longer have, most of them no longer have the control over their actions or thoughts, and therefore who is going to look after them besides us, the adults and others who are right thinking, who have their interests at heart, and of course the systems that have to be strengthened in order to ensure that the element of abuse in whatever form is not only minimized, but it is closed off in a way that say that as proud Barbadians, as we go into this republic location that we're in now, we can say our seniors will get a better deal, but it calls for that all-encompassing approach from every single Barbadian. In the same way we treat the children and we care for them and look after them, we must do the same not only for our senior citizens, but for our disabled who are also senior citizens because of amputations and injuries and so on, and arthritis and all that impact on them and their lives. So I want to encourage all Barbadians, let us come together in a unified spirit to ensure that our seniors get the quality care. None of us knows what tomorrow holds for us when it comes to disability. Many of us who are seniors, we do not know what the future holds for us as we go forward. Let the family units come together, work with the other agencies, and let us change this whole culture that is foreign to us. Turn it around for the betterment of every single Barbadian within our societies and for our caregivers in the various institutions, whether public or private. If they see something, say something, and the legislative approach will assist so that we can face it and we can
fix it. Well, on a good note, great note to end that, I want to thank the Honorable Cynthia Forde MP for the area of my favorite parish, St. Thomas. Thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.
And I want to thank the Public of Barbados and indeed CBC and the team for discussing matters of this nature that have long been pushed under the carpet. We now need to take the carpet out and dust it off and make sure that everybody comes on board to change the whole culture of what we are witnessing on a daily basis. Because if we love God, we must show that we love one another in much the same way, whether old, young, rich or poor, disabled or able. May God continue to bless all of you at CBC and the rest of Barbados. Thank you for having me, ma'am.
Thank you too. Amen. Amen.
You are most welcome.
We're going to wrap up now with a video that we wanted to show when we had the lifelong learning center here for persons with disabilities, adults with disabilities. And here's a clip. I want these children to see themselves dancing. Let's play the clip.
My name is Jada and this is me. My name is Akira, this is me. My name is Jada, this is me. My name is Sheena and this is me.
My name
is Mickey and this is me.
My name is Nicola, this is me.
My name is Josiah and this is me.
My name is Shakila and this is me.
My name is Dominic and this is me.
My name is Nayasha and this is me.
My name is Darren. This is me.
I am Sarah and this is Woven and this is we.
I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed about my scars. Run away, they say, 'cause no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them kick me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, gonna set a flag, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am whom I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum.